Before we begin, a brief foreword. This podcast is the English version of Papa, which was initially written and recorded in French. I created an English version to allow the people who made this surrogacy journey possible, particularly our child's surrogate and egg donor, to listen to it, but also to share this story with a wider audience beyond French-speaking listeners. While the content focuses on our experience in France, where surrogacy is illegal, I remain convinced that it can resonate beyond that context. I am infinitely grateful to the English speakers who listen to each of the following episodes to confirm that my Franglish doesn't prevent good understanding. Now, let's begin. Hello, my love. You okay? You want to hear a story? A story with so much love that some people find it hard to believe. An adventure with ups and downs, like all adventures, but where we love each other more and better every step of the way. This story is yours. It's the story of how you came into this world thanks to two extraordinary women and lots of little elves who helped along the way. Well, you won't understand it all now, but you can listen again later, and we'll talk about it as much as you like. You want to hear it? Oh, you're so sweet. Welcome to Surrogacy Daddy, the podcast about a queer and ethically driven surrogacy journey. Introductory episode. Well, I don't know if it's us, your two daddies, or if it's just the reality of current events, but since we have started our surrogacy journey, not a week goes by that I don't read an article, an interview, or a media reaction to surrogacy in France, where we are from. Whether it's the Prime Minister, the Senator, candidates, even personalities from the arts and culture fields. We're even starting to hear about it on entertainment shows. It's as if all of a sudden, it's become a super urgent topic. Even we have been asked several times for interviews by journalists, researchers, authors who come from several European countries to hear our story. It was funny because at the beginning they'd say, it will last an hour or an hour and a half, and I'd say, well, if you want, it will just be that long, but I'd advise you to plan for 3 times that, because all the questions about surrogacy have complex answers, and it takes time, a long time to explain that. And every time we stayed for 5 or 6 hours talking, if not more. On one occasion, a researcher came from Paris and took advantage of this opportunity to plan a weekend with her partner. And she stayed 10 hours with us. 10 hours spread over 2 days. Your other dad and I were really embarrassed because we kept telling her, your boyfriend's gonna hate us. Then she'd laugh and say, don't worry, I'll explain to him how interesting what you're telling me is and how valuable it is for our research, even potentially for the general public once it's published. And so I said to myself, this story is above all yours. You, Aube, our child, our little love. And so maybe you'll want to listen to it when you're older or when you feel ready. Additionally, in the meantime, by sharing the story of our surrogacy journey around us, maybe we'll be helping people to better understand what it's really all about. Because in the media, as a matter of fact, we read and hear things from people who are at best ill-informed, at worst ill-intentioned, and who are really talking nonsense. So I thought it would be nice to have a story that explains concretely, transparently, from start to finish, what it means to go through a surrogacy to have a child. That way, people might be able to have an informed opinion. Fortunately, there are also a few media personalities who are speaking out to defend us and our families. It gives hope. I'm infinitely grateful to them. It's some of the strength these people have given that I'm using to make this podcast. Now, let's be clear. Asking fundamental questions about surrogacy is totally legitimate. I completely understand. And we've asked ourselves thousands of them, and you'll probably have just as many too. That's why I'm writing this story, to start answering some of them from my point of view as a surrogacy daddy. By the way, where did this point of view come from? Well, you know me. I'm one of your dads. But as there are others who will be listening to this, it's important that I situate myself, that people know where I'm talking from to understand how my story is determined. So, I'm a white, cisgender male. I'm married to your amazing second daddy, and I'm rich in the sense that we've been able to pay for the services that are required for a surrogacy, as we'll see over the course of the episodes. The only system of oppression I suffer is the fact that I'm gay. It's not insignificant, especially at a time when acts against homosexuals are on the increase in France, Europe, and the rest of the world, including the USA. And it is also true when it comes to parenthood, where we are often perceived as monsters, with the suspicion that we are incapable of being parents or even abusive. Not to mention the total lack of empowering stories about families like us. But I'll talk more about that later. Another privilege I have is to have an absolutely incredible family who listened to me when I came out, who evolved their opinions and who never rejected me. Then, years later, they were excited when we announced our plans to become parents. They were supporting us for every step of the way, learning and reflecting with us on the various topics surrounding surrogacy. Some people also changed their minds, seeing how we did it and what our relationship was with the woman who carried you. That gave us a lot of strength. And that is true for your other dad's family too. This support was really important during this surrogacy adventure. But it is also really precious after the birth, because now that you are born, adorable as you are, your grandparents came to see us. Your aunts, your uncles spend time with you and give you lots of love and attention. And it makes us really happy. But not only, it also allows us to have a little free time, for example, to make this recording. So, if people like me, who despite systemic discrimination, still have important privileges in the context of their parenthood, don't take the time to tell the story of their journey, to talk about surrogacy, to inform and educate so that people understand a little better what it's all about before judging, who's gonna do it? And I also don't forget that as an homosexual born in France in the 80s, I've spent my time benefiting from the rewards of battles that were fought before me by activists who had the courage, the time, the energy, and the strength to fight so that I could have rights, so that I could hold my boyfriend's hand in the street without being lynched, get married the day I felt like getting married, or have children the day your dad and I felt ready. And that's very precious in life. And so on my nano scale, if I can contribute to a better understanding of what ethical surrogacy is, and hopefully to greater acceptance, then I'd be super happy. Because now that there's a lot of talk about surrogacy, it's important to go beyond the cliches and caricatures. It's important to understand from the inside the polyphonic realities that it covers by listening to the experiences, feelings, emotions, and reflections of people who went through it, whether as a parent or as a partner. These are complex journeys that require time and thoughts to be told. It's not really the TV show format, neither is it easy to reduce it to a couple of punchlines for TikTok. There are very few places where one can look this complexity in the face, a complexity that is ethical, political, cultural, emotional, financial, logistical, administrative, legal, and even scientific. See, just listening to all these fields make me think, oh my, how did we get through all that? Well, it's simple. Beyond all the obstacles and difficulties, never forget that this story, above all, is about love. A love that's even deeper and more intense than one can ever imagine. A love that binds us together and makes us grow. And I believe that this love is powerful enough to make society grow too, beyond the intimacy of our stories. It was complex and happy. And this complexity is something I also embrace myself. I continue to make my opinion on surrogacy evolve. As of today, I'm in favor of an ethical surrogacy under certain conditions. But I'm only 99% sure of myself. And that remaining 1% is precious. That's what keeps me thinking, reading, listening, asking questions, talking about it, debating, informing myself. And I want to maintain this in this story over the course of the episodes. So, what am I going to talk about in the following episodes? First, queer parenthood in general. How do you become a parent if you're gay? Why did we choose surrogacy over adoption or co-parenthood? What does it mean an ethical surrogacy? How did we choose the country where this adventure took place? What are the steps involved in a surrogacy journey? How long does it last? How much does it cost? Who were all the people involved bringing you into the world? How did we find the woman who carried you? How did we create a relationship with her and her family? But also, where is the mother in a surrogacy with two dads? That's a question everyone asks. What's in the contracts? How did the pregnancy go? How do you get your identity papers, and which ones? And beyond your conception and birth, what about parental leave for two dads? What is it like to be a parent when you're gay, especially in the eyes of others? And we'll also talk about surrogacy and feminism, surrogacy and capitalism. Now, who am I talking to? Well, first of all to you, because this is first and foremost for you, so that you can take ownership of the story of your arrival in the world and know that you were born into light and happiness, contrary to what some people may or may not tell you, and to give you something to think about and make up your own mind. I'm also telling our story for those who are undecided, for those who have questions and want to get a better idea of the reality of these journeys, so that they can form their own opinion too. And even for people who are rather against it, but who feel they don't know enough to be really definitive in their position. I'm also doing this for researchers, journalists, intellectuals, and theorists who feel that perhaps society has been a little hasty in its judgment, without taking the time to really know and understand. I'm also doing this for all the people in associations and organizations that help families like ours, as a way of thanking them by telling them about the incredible adventure that was yours and ours. And of course, for past, present, and future families who want to hear a story they can relate to. For us, queer families who are virtually absent and often invisible in collective imagination, cultural representations, and narratives, whether in the arts, in spiritualities, religions, in science and research frameworks. You'll see my story oscillates between general, ethical, and political reflections on the one hand, and more technical parts, so to speak, where I explain, I hope pedagogically, how everything came together for you to come into the world. I'm aware that the back and forth between an intimate story and wider considerations is sometimes a little disconcerting, but I'm okay with that, because it's reality. I hope you and the others will understand my approach. Well, as we are near the end of this introductory episode, there are two last things I wanted to talk to you about. Firstly, is it urgent to talk about surrogacy? Perhaps it's not the hottest topic considering the state of the world right now, and also that is unfortunately only possible for rich people, as I said earlier, and we'll come back to it. But since there's a lot of talk about us at the moment, and also a lot of nonsense, we're not going to wait on the sidelines. We're not going to wait for history to leave us an opportunity to speak out, because we know that never happens. When you are from a minority, you cannot wait for someone to give you a spot. You have to get it yourself. And one last thing. You'll see that in the podcast, I call you Aube, which means dawn in French, even though that's not your real name. But it's to protect you, because people who talk about surrogacy, even ethical ones, are attacked, harassed on the internet or outside. There is a real permanent risk hanging above our families, and that's the reality, and we have examples of it every month. Even though a study carried out by a French institute in April 2024 for local far-right media, kind of funny, let's admit, reveals that the vast majority of French people said that they are in favor of surrogacy, and in particular women at 64%. And I call you like that too, because even if the dawn brings together the night and the day, it also escapes them. And I'd like you to be able to escape this story if you wish. Because even if it's your heritage, I don't want you to feel trapped into it. I hope you'll experience the story of your origins as a source of strength and pride, but it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it and what you can do with it. I think I've pretty much set up the scene as I felt it was important to do. Now, are you ready to listen to the story of your adventure? In the next episode of Surrogacy Daddy, I'll be talking about how the desire of parenthood arrived and how we began to learn about the different possibilities and modalities for having a child as a gay couple. I made this recording on the fly between 6 and 7:30 in the morning with zero knowledge of what is actually a real profession. I want to thank the people who inspired me and gave me their time to explain the basics. This project has no commercial purpose and no sponsorship. I'm doing this so that people can better understand what surrogacy is, and in the hope that this will stop people attacking our families and our children. The best way to help me is to share this podcast widely with others, your family, your friends, and your communities. See you in the next episode.